The PC gave us computing power at home, the internet connected us, and mobile let us do it pretty much anywhere. Now generative AI lets us communicate with technology in our own language using our own senses. But figuring it all out when you're living through it is a totally different story. Welcome to Leading the Shift, a new podcast from Microsoft Azure. I'm your host, Susan Ettlinger. In each episode, leaders will share what they're learning to help you navigate all this change with confidence. Please join us. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You are tuned in to the FowlWeather podcast, the forecast to your next successful hunt, coming to you from the home office, Jacks Reef, New York.
So we get the question all the time now about, why did you want to start a podcast? And, why did you start the FowlWeather podcast? And the reality is that I'm pretty just much ate up with thinking about duck migration and why ducks move south. I spent a lot of years in my, teens, 20s, even early 30s, I would say, just going, when I had time to go duck hunting. And I spent a lot of times just staring at empty skies, drinking coffee, smoking cigars in the blind, petting a wet dog. And that was all well and good, but I'm like, I could do this stuff and shoot ducks. And I was like, why can't, I'm a science guy, and I think about bird behavior all the time. Why can't I use that to create some really cool science that gets published, in like the Journal of Wildlife Management and other places? And then also use that as a tool for myself, maybe to find days when ducks are actually migrating and shoot more ducks. And so I just got sick of the days where I'd go one day and see nothing and waste my time when I could be working or doing something else with family. And then the next day, like, the skies are full. I'm like, I gotta find a way to just go on those days that the skies are full. So, that's about why I worked hard as an academic on coming up with models that predict duck migration. But then, really, I started thinking about the general public, and how busy we are. And there's just so many things in the way of kids nowadays from even getting out and hunting. And how many of those kids just want to sit and, you find fun things for them to do in the blind or the boat. But wouldn't you rather have them, when you could maybe pick a day, be able to go on good days? So this is about hunter recruitment. It's about hunter retention, and maybe reactivation of older hunters. That's called R3 nowadays. So recruitment, retention, reactivation. I don't know if I have that in the right order. But my sense is that the FowlWeather podcast enables you to pick the better days to go. I used to just go on weekends, right? When I had time. But now I tend to look at the forecasts that I create and my colleagues and I create here on the FowlWeather podcast. And I might, be able to go on Wednesday and sneak out for a little bit and shoot some ducks. And then I'll just work in the office on Saturday morning, right? Like, we're all that much more flexible. So it's really the reason that I got into this. Is I'm really concerned about how much we interact in the outdoors and how much time we spend in the outdoors, and ensuring that we provide people with, the best times that they can possibly go. All right, so in the back of somebody's mind, they right now are saying, well, Dr. Schumer, Dr. Mike. By the way, it's Schumer with 2 M's. I'm not related to Chuck, so do not pin that on me, please. No relation whatsoever. Grew up in Western New York. Farming community. Dad was a school teacher. Mom did social work. Grew up in basically a hunting cabin. Worked in the forestry industry for a while. Got a forestry degree. Got a wildlife degree. Went on to do blah, blah, blah. So don't put me in any categories with New York politicians. It's not who I am. But I feel like, sorry, that was a little sidebar there. But I feel like there's going to be a bunch of people that are like, okay, so you're just going to give us all the information on what ducks move, and we know ducks are way more susceptible to being shot when they move from a place they know to a place they don't know. So aren't you afraid that we're going to kill too many ducks? Oh, okay, that's a heavy one. I'm going to cover that completely in probably the beginning of a whole entire episode sometime, I don't know, maybe like November-ish or something like that. The reality is, and take 2 seconds to digest this, is that ducks run guns, guns don't run ducks. And I think we've been fed a complete line of BS to a large degree that shooting ducks decreases duck populations. Is this true sometimes? Yes. I'm just going to jump on a little bit of this now. I'll give a big detailed pile of information on this later. As I said, probably at the beginning of one of my weekly forecasts, maybe in November. Like geese, you cannot just pound geese because they just don't produce that many goslings per year. But for the most part, our ducks can take a pounding. They reproduce like bunnies, and we harvest a large portion of them every single year that wouldn't survive anyway. So duck harvest typically doesn't run populations. That is, guns don't run ducks, ducks run guns. So when there's more ducks, we shoot more ducks. Wow, what a revelation. But we typically do not drive those populations by shooting them. So I'm not too concerned about that portion of this. So, yeah, why did we get into it? I want to see people have a good time. I want to see the activity of duck hunting continue. I want to see state and federal agencies advocate for duck hunters and the duck conservation that we all drive. Ducks are doing well relative, not all ducks, because there are some habitat issues out there with certain species. They tend to be coastal species in general, because we treat our coasts very poorly. And we haven't put habitat or sustained habitat where we can, mostly because of the difficulty of that. But I'll end there. I really appreciate you all listening to the FowlWeather podcast. I'm Dr. Mike Schumer from New York, but with 2 M's. So keep on listening. Thank you all.